Well, time is a circle, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have come back down to earth in what seems to be a regression back to the mean. 31-28 loss to the Chicago Bears, whom I think some of us were a little bit in between on whether or not they were legit. I still think I'm coming out of this game thinking that they have some problems, but you got to hand it to them. Ben Johnson absolutely outcoached Mike Tomlin in this Week 12 game. And before we even started, David and I looked at each other and said, this was the tale of two halves, almost simultaneously. I wish we could have gotten that on tape. Unfortunately, we were not recording when that interaction happened. But this was indeed a tale of two halves. And personally, I have a feeling that when you come down to the little weeds of it, this game comes down to coaching at the very end of the day. So what do you think about this, David? Obviously, the tale of two halves, but as far as the coaching goes, what do you feel about that?
I completely agree. I think that, specifically that second half, the first half, I think it wasn't as noticeable because we'll talk about it, but the huge play that TJ Watt made, and other things that happened throughout the first half that was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I feel like both teams are just getting their bearings. And then the second half kicks in. And I think that that's when you see the masterclass of coaching take place versus I don't know what a good word is, but below average coaching. It's sad to see how our players are failed in every facet of coaching, offensively, defensively. I even dare to say special teams, even though I love Danny Smith, we're failing on all levels, and it's because of coaching. We are just utterly abysmal coaching wise. And I think that, oh man, the fans that still want to, back up Mike Tomlin, this franchise that we love because of coaching, and it hasn't been a steep thing. It hasn't been like, oh, we were just in the Super Bowl and then we were only winning 2 or 3 games. Like, no, it has been the most gradual of gradual declines in the past 20 years. And it is because of him and because of the inadequacy we've had at our coaching staffs in, all of these roles, because of his leadership, because of who he's picking to take on his staff, that has led us to this point that we're in a super close game. We have a lead at halftime, and our coaches negatively impact the game so that we end up losing, not positively impacting like Ben Johnson or these other guys like Dan Campbell, who once he takes over play calling, their offense is back to normal. It's just, yeah, it is such a disappointment from our coaching staff year in and year out. And this game was just, I feel like, a microcosm of, especially in the second half, of that collapse.
I don't even know if it's a microcosm anymore. I think this is more of a macrocosm because if you look at just the game in general, I feel like in the first half, the coaching staff was going by the scheme. They were going by the game plan with Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph is named the starter at 11 o'clock on Sunday. So it's like, okay, Mason's out there, no Aaron Rodgers this week. And I think very obviously the game plan was dink and dunk. Let's just throw some short passes. Let's walk down the field. And it worked. They had a 95-yard touchdown drive that took up 8 minutes. And that was very systematic. They moved the ball down the field. Nothing was very, splash play-like, but it worked. They scored a touchdown off of that. And then the defense comes back out. They pin him back deep into Bears territory. TJ Watt gets that forced fumble in the end zone. Nick Herbig comes on top of it. All of a sudden, it's 14-7, and you're thinking, okay, we're in this ball game. We're playing against a good team. We're up. This is good. This is where we want to be. And then, even before the second half even started, I'm sitting here watching this zone defense just absolutely getting picked apart by the wide receivers. Heck, even Colston Loveland, the tight end for the Bears. Caleb Williams was not accurate in this game, but he was accurate enough to where that zone defense, there was nobody around any of these receivers half the time. All he has to do is throw it to a general area, and his guys are going to make a catch, and they're going to run after the catch as well. So even in the first half, offensively, I thought Arthur Smith had a good game plan. His game plan was dink and dunk. Defensively, the game plan was, I don't know what it was. Whatever it was, it didn't work. They got the touchdown on that TJ Watt forced fumble, but outside of that, the defense was terrible in this game, and it never really showed any signs of getting better over the course of the game. Second quarter, it's like, okay, we're still giving up a ton of this stuff. They had a chance to get a stop right before the half, and instead they're giving up these long passes over the middle that set them up for a field goal. And again, this was a 3-point game in the end. Those 3 points mean a whole lot. So offensively, first half, I thought it was fine. I was happy. I think you were also happy with that too. But defensively, I mean, this team is not offensively put together to get into shootouts with teams. As much as we might want them to be, this team offensively just can't do that. And if the defense is going to fail us week in and week out, then you're going to get this outcome more often than not, especially in these last few weeks for sure.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think that I don't know if I said this last week or if I heard this during this game or last week's game, but even if I said it, I'm going to say it again because the Pittsburgh Steelers are known for the steel curtain. It's Blitzburg. It is defense first. And we're going to give up the most yards we've ever given up in an entire season this year in a franchise. I mean, talk about rock bottom. I think that, when it comes to teams, there's different rock bottoms. And when it's the Steelers and we're the defensive makeup, like we are, when you think of the best defenses throughout, all the NFL, it's like you're going to the Steelers. That's what we're known for. That's what we're built on. That's what our Super Bowls are built on, are the best defenses in the league. And to say that that we're going to have the worst yardage performance of any defense in Steelers history is embarrassing. And it's like, man, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Jalen Ramsey, Alex Highsmith, Patrick Queen, these guys are going to have to stamp their name on this season. TJ Watt and Cam Hayward are probably both Hall of Famers, are going to have to be like, yeah, I was on that season that gave up the most yards in Steelers history. What are they doing? Wake up. TJ Watt, thank you. He's awake. He's trying, obviously. We saw the play. But it's ridiculous how easy it looks. I don't know if Caleb Williams got hit the rest of the game. I don't know for sure, but I don't know if anyone else got a sack. And to your point, yeah, I mean, he could do whatever he wanted in the air. He had a horrible arm Sunday. He overthrew guys. Kyle Duggar should have had an easy interception, threw behind guys, and they were making those catches sometimes. But then, yeah, they had 5 to 10 yards to themselves. Where is everybody? And it's just abysmal that, and like you said, our offense is not built for shootouts. And so it's like, I don't know. My question to you is, when it comes to the leadership and the coaching and everything, I feel like every year when there's been collapses like this or just, struggling with Tomlin, there's always a saving grace. It's like, well, but the defense is lights out, like TJ Watt just tied the record for sacks, Now it's like, well, what's the saving grace? Because the defense is the worst it's been in an extremely long time. And the offense, everyone admits, is just struggling. Even with Aaron Rodgers, can barely put 2 drives together. And then special teams is making mistakes. So what is the saving grace here?
There is none. That's the whole point. I feel like all season long, people are putting the Steelers in a category of teams that is in the upper echelon of teams. But you look at this team overall and it's like, this is not a very good football team. Now, the money aspect of things and the talent aspect of things is not indicative of that. Because if you look at the talent across the board, you should say, okay, this team should at least be a top 16 team, a top half team. But the fact of the matter is that they're not. And if you have talent, then why are they underperforming? There's only one reason as to why. And it's because the people that are putting them in those positions, it's the coaching. It's the coaching. We've said it every single year. Time is a circle. I feel like it was this exact week that we started talking about this last year. Was week 12 the Eagles' week last year, or was it a little bit later than that?
Let me think. Because that was our first loss, right?
First loss in that stretch of the big losing streak.
It was maybe week 13 or 14, I think. So yeah, right around this time.
But at the same time, right now, we've lost 4 out of 6. And we've lost control of the AFC North. The collapse has already started, and it's not going to get better. Because these are the games that, sure, we talked about that the Bears are a decent team. They might have flaws, yes, but they are a good team, and this is a team that you could still beat, based on, the echelon of teams that you specifically exist in. But they didn't come out of this one with a win. And again, it's you look at it, Ben Johnson prepared his team to win, and they won. Mike Tomlin did not prepare his team to win, and they didn't win. The fact of the matter is, you might call the Bears frauds for whatever reason, but the thing is, they're winning, and the Steelers are not winning. They don't have that winning edge this season. Some years, the Steelers are not a great team, but they have that winning edge. I think 2023, like 2023, early on in 2023, I thought that they had that winning edge, that they found a way to win games when it came to the end. This year, they don't have that. They just don't have that winning edge. Kind of in the pits of my stomach, I get this feeling sometimes if it's a close game at the end, it's like, okay, I've been conditioned to think, okay, we're going to find a way to win this one. This year, they're not doing that at all. And I think it just has to go back down to the fact that the coaching staff is not putting them in positions to win. Because, you look at that second half and you say, okay, where the heck did the run game go? Where the heck did the offense go? What happened to the good systematic dink and dunk offense that we saw in the first half? Why did we not switch off of the zone defense when it still didn't work in the second half? Like, why does nothing change when it's going wrong? I don't understand that.
It's because our coaches don't know how to do it. Like, and I owe a huge apology to Aaron Rodgers because, I think that I was excited to see Mason Rudolph, and part of that is just expectations, right? When you get Aaron Rodgers, you expect Hall of Fame quarterback. So when he's mediocre, you're like, that's not what I was hoping for. Mason Rudolph, you're like, he's a backup quarterback. I don't know what I'm going to get. So when he's mediocre, you're like, okay, well, that was okay. And yeah, I think that, I was putting a lot of blame on Aaron Rodgers, and I still think there's some things there that I wish were going differently. But I think that this proves that it really just is the scheme. I mean, because Mason Rudolph had a good half once again, and then the second half this week, I feel like more than other weeks, because Rudolph doesn't run around. And sometimes I feel like when you run around, it gives off the impression of like you're just trying to make something happen. And when Mason Rudolph doesn't do that. And so when he doesn't do that, all the blame goes on the coaches. Because you can't blame the quarterback that he didn't see something. He was standing there just looking, waiting for something to come available. And he didn't. And it's not like he was making bad decisions. And that's, I think, the key. Is that it's not that the quarterback was making bad decisions or missing things. Like, we're not able to execute at anything. And, like, that's Tomlin's biggest thing, right? We just got to execute better. Well, the scheme is so bad that when our players execute it, the other team has it ready and it knows what to do, and we're not going to do anything to fix that. And defensively, it's the same way. The offense knows exactly how to pick apart our defense. I feel like week in and week out, our defense has had a good game here and there. And if it weren't for the TJ Watt play, who knows what happened to this game. I mean, this game probably isn't as close as it was. And, it goes back to, and I think we've seen this a few weeks, there are plays in this game that I said this in our group chat, like our high school mistakes, like you could say maybe college, I don't know, in the MAC or something, but like high school mistakes, that's like really, and then those are the mistakes that are costing us the game. And it's like, that's not anything but coaching. Like the illegal formation that took away Mason Rudolph's huge long run. That was the second time, it might have been Calvin Austin the first time too, but that was the second time I noticed that one half of the offense, one side of it was like, wait, what am I doing? And it's like, yeah, okay, Mason Rudolph's in there. It's a different quarterback. But the fact that was happening multiple times, that guys were just like, what the heck am I doing? That it's a collapse on every level, and it doesn't look as bad as other teams' collapses, but it's still bad. And I think we're, once again, we're in trouble, but not in trouble like other teams, because other teams, their trouble is they're bottoming out. And our trouble is 500.
Right. Our trouble is that, we're exactly where we are, and we will continue to be where we are for years and years to come because nothing will ever change. Now, that specific play, I want to dive into that for a second because it's interesting. They actually had the camera on Aaron Rodgers on the sideline, and you can see him mouth, oh no, they're in the wrong formation. So he sees that from the sideline, and, Aaron Rodgers is probably standing next to some of the coaching staff. Why doesn't Mike Tomlin call a timeout there? You still had 3 timeouts, and that's a big play in the game. Like, if you actually have a successful play there, then something good can happen after that. That's all they needed to do was really kick a field goal at that point. Aaron Rodgers recognizes that from the sideline. Mason Rudolph doesn't recognize that from the line, and the coaching staff doesn't recognize that. There was only one person in the building that knew that was an illegal formation, and he's standing on the sideline vocalizing this. Oh no, they're in the wrong formation. And nobody did anything about it. You can place the blame on Rudolph. You can place the blame on the coaching staff. Place the blame on whoever it was on, too. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, that's the thing is, like, those things can't happen. Those things happen in practice. Those things happen in preparation so that they never happen in the game. you can call it on, you can say that this is Mason's fault for not calling timeout and not recognizing it himself. I think he actually went over and touched Kenneth Gainwell on that play to say, hey, you need to move or something like that. And Kenneth Gainwell just didn't do anything. So it's like, okay, you can place the blame wherever you want, but it goes back to the coaching. If you are in the biggest spot in the game, not doing what you need to do at the very basic, bare minimum way, then that's coaching. That's a complete coaching failure, that you're not prepared to do what you need to do in the biggest spot in the game.
Absolutely. And I think another point to prove that it is all coaching, that our coaching is the weak spot, is that I think if you take this team, say you make Ben Johnson the head coach. And I mean, why not throw Dennis Allen a defensive coordinator? I think this team is a Super Bowl caliber team for the reason that we almost won this game. Like, there are multiple plays. You get that legal formation thing that almost sets us up for, this game-winning touchdown drive. You go back to, the very end of the game. If the most random of circumstances don't happen where the Bears decide to throw the ball and we get our one time out back, but James Pierre gets hurt on that third down, which I don't even know what happened on that play because I looked like he was almost like faking the injury. Like he stubbed his toe on another player. But we lose that timeout. If we have that timeout, it's going to overtime, guaranteed. Because we were basically in field goal range. We just completely, again, coaching mismanaged the entire end of that last drive. But then you go to the 4th and 1 of Connor Hayward, where I think we got that first down, but they didn't call. Like, we are a play or two away from guaranteed overtime, likely a win. And yet our coaching stinks. That's how much talent we have on this team. And I think that people are missing that because of how bad the coaching is. How many targets did DK Metcalf have?
He had, hold on, I have it pulled up. He had 8 targets, but listen to this. 5 receptions for 22 yards. And the one that they threw to him was picked off, which, again, was it a great throw? Not exactly. DK was not in good position for that. This was the first drive of the game. The defensive back made a heck of a play. He leads the league in interceptions for a reason. He made a heck of a play on that play. But that's the thing. 5 catches for 22 yards? This is DK Metcalf. This is the guy that you brought in to be your big guy, to be like your 100-yard guy every week. 5 catches for 22 yards? What? What are we doing?
And it's just, again, coaching. We don't know how to use our players. If he isn't going 20 yards down the field right on the sideline, or he isn't in a bubble screen, we don't know how to use him. He's the biggest guy that's going to be in the secondary. Why is he not in the middle of the field? Why are we not using him in deep crossers like we did in Minnesota, or like other routes? Like, yeah, of course his deep route's going to be covered up because all he does is run a go route. And then when you throw the ball super short to him, that's not what he's built for. Throw the short routes to Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson, because that's literally what they're built for. And yet we decide to not use them in how they should be, and then we don't use DK Metcalf in how he should be. And I think it's like a good comparison that you see George Pickens going to Dallas and is lighting it up, because guess what? Brandon Schottenheimer knows how to use his players, and we don't. And it's like, it doesn't matter. DK Metcalf, George Pickens, who cares? If we're going to not use them correctly, it doesn't matter. And I think that this game just proves that again, that we are not using anybody to the best of their capabilities.
I want to pose this question to you since you brought it up. George Pickens is on pace to be the second best wide receiver in the NFL this year. He's on pace for 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's going to be a first-team All-Pro. I have a question for you. Would he have done this year in Pittsburgh if he stayed?
Absolutely not. He'd be doing what DK Metcalf is doing right now.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, good for him. I'm happy he's going out and doing what, the Lord blessed him to do, be amazing at football. Somehow, us Steelers, we messed that up. We took the unique talent that was above, a vast majority of the wide receivers in the league and said, I don't know how to use you. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't know how we did what we did with Antonio Brown. Big Ben. But we've misused so many receivers. Think about Chase Claypool. He was so much athletic talent there that we just wasted away. You could even say Deontay Johnson. It's player after player after player of we've just wasted away their talent. So I'm glad that he's out there and actually using his talent and being really good in the NFL. But no, his statistics would probably be the same if he were in DK Metcalf's shoes.
I completely agree. And the thing that is, The Pittsburgh media right now is looking at George Pickens and they're like, he has more receiving yards this season than the entirety of the Steelers wide receiver core, which in itself is, not really surprising because of the way that the Steelers play offense. This is an elementary offensive game plan. It's an elementary scheme. George Pickens would not succeed in Pittsburgh. And people are saying, I heard on Pittsburgh radio yesterday that they're saying that the Pickens trade is the worst trade in the history of Steelers football. And I say, okay, this was a lose-lose situation. You are going to lose this situation in every single way. If you trade him, he's going to go somewhere else and be great. You got a third-round pick for him. It's not nearly enough what you should have got for him, but sure, it is what it is. If he stays, he's not going to be even close to what he's doing right now. Not even close. This was a lose-lose situation, and you can't be surprised that the Steelers lost.
Right, and I don't know how these people don't look behind the curtain. Like, get your eyes off the field and look at the sidelines. Like what you said, this trade doesn't make a difference to our performance and to our play. It is all what's happening on the sidelines. George Pickens, DK Metcalf, doesn't matter. They're doing the same thing in the same role when they were with us. Like, I'd love to know how many targets George Pickens has and how many targets our wide receivers have. Like, I think that'd be an interesting statistic because, I mean, oh, it's just ridiculous that, let's go to the root cause, right? The root cause isn't George Pickens. He's not why we're doing what we're doing right now. The root cause is everyone with a headset on the sidelines.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I want to pose this to you as well because this was a point of contention for me. At the end of the game, you're on 4th down and 6. You're at the 47-yard line of the Bears. Who is our best offensive player, David? I have a question. That's my first question. Who's our best offensive player?
Overall, I'd say Jalen Warren.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. Who do you think's our next best offensive player?
I mean, based off talent alone, DK Metcalf.
Okay, you're thinking a little bit differently than I am. Who has the most points accounted for in the last 9 years for the Steelers?
Oh, are you talking about Chris Boswell?
Is Chris Boswell not our best offensive player?
You're right. I mean, it's true. He's the most consistent.
Okay, so they said before the game, Chicago, tough place to kick. Absolutely, most definitely. It's the Windy City for a reason. They said before the game that the wind was not a factor in this game. It was a beautiful sunny day in Chicago. There was hardly any wind. And you're at the 47-yard line of the Chicago Bears at the end of the game on 4th down with about 20 seconds left and no timeouts with the ball in play and the clock running. Do you not trust Chris Boswell to try a 64-yard field goal to try to tie the game right there instead of whatever that play call on 4th down is when you're rushed and you haven't really moved the ball down the field all game? You're trying to get a first down there instead of letting the greatest kicker in the NFL try it from 64. Did you ever think that at that point in the game, or was that just me?
Well, no, I did. I was like, when they were lining up on the 4th down, I was like, why are we maybe just considering kicking a field goal? I was like, I'd be happier with ending the game on a field goal try right now than whatever we're about to do. And again, I think wasn't that first down that led to that 4th down? Didn't we run it?
It might have been like an outside pitch play type thing. I don't know that for sure though.
Which horrible play call, which said we were doing okay on this trying to, tie the game drive. And then I think that just the play calling just absolutely killed it. But yeah, I think at that point, to what I just said, the play calling was absolutely killing it. You think that we're going to call a play on 4th down that's going to get us that first down with enough time to spike the ball and then get a field goal? Yeah, I think that Boswell was probably putting his helmet on. Okay, here we go. And it didn't come, and it's hello? Again, we've talked about how Mike Tomlin doesn't always make the obvious decision or the smart decision in, those quick game decisions, whether it's challenges or timeouts or other things like that. I think that this is just another one you can put on his resume of what? How did you not? It's a 64-yarder. That's honestly a reasonable kick in the NFL nowadays. A lot of guys are just doing it. And it's not as far-fetched as it used to be. And by the way, Boswell was making those far-fetched kicks when it used to be far-fetched. So it's I think that it was a horrible decision. I think that they were just rushed and freaking out. And it was just so horribly mismanaged.
So in my mind, if I have Chris Boswell on my team, I'm thinking to myself at all times, if I get to the 50-yard line, I have a chance. They were beyond the 50-yard line at the 47. Again, Chris Boswell, his career long is now, I think, 60. Was that the 63-yarder in New York? First week of the season, was it 63 or 62?
Was it in? Let me look because I just want to clarify something for myself because there was a kick that he did. It was in 2020 against the Cowboys, and it was a 60-plus yarder, and it was totally overshadowed by Justin Tucker's like record-breaking kick, and I was super upset about it. But I want to just double check to see that's his. But like, yeah, to your point, like what you were saying about how he's was the most surefire kicker in the league.
So that's my whole point is like, I am able to live with Chris Boswell attempting a 64-yarder and missing than what they did. If he goes up there and he shanks it, or if he's not even close, I'm completely okay with that. But the thing is, it's like you look at this now and you're like, why didn't we even try it? The fact that they didn't even try it shows again this statement. They're living in their fears. Mike Tomlin coined that phrase, whoever knows how many years ago, and if he never would have said it, Steelers fans wouldn't have any reason to say it. But the fact that he's the one that said it and he's the one that lives in his fears all the time, it just makes no sense. There's no continuity to his statements. And you look at it and it's like, yeah, why don't you let Chris Boswell try a 64-yard field goal at the end of the game to get you to overtime? That's what living in your fears looks like exactly from there.
Well, I agree, and I think that he coaches in his fears. Like, he's always coaching the conservative, like game calling, like just relying on the defense and like play calling conservative, and it's like it's never gonna win you a football game. Like yeah, like living in your fears. He's right. It's never gonna win you a football game. So he needs to stop doing it at such a high level.
And the more that you live in your fears, the more that other teams just take advantage of it because fear is one of those things. You think of the animal kingdom. There are some predators that are fueled by the fear of their prey. They can sense the fear within them. Like sharks, they go out there and like they can sense fear around them and they pounce on that. If you're fearful in what you're doing, good teams are going to prey on that. And we've seen it all the time. That good teams prey on our own fears and they win because of it. And we're the ones that come out of it the losers. And that's the whole thing is it's a loser mentality to live in your fears. Here we sit at 6-5, and now the Ravens are going to run away with the AFC North.
Yeah, and I mean that the Ravens definitely aren't, living in their fears. And I think that, like, yeah, and what you said, fear grows. Like it's a signal, and it'll get bigger and bigger the more you feed it. And so then that target is bigger and bigger for all these other teams to be like, oh my goodness, like this is a prime. Like I think that happened last year. Like the Chiefs came into Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. Like this is a prime rib we had before us. Like let's attack on this team. And I think that it's what we portray like almost like every year. And it's so unfortunate that again we're here. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. I don't know. There can't be a happy person in the locker room right now. I mean, like TJ Watt's probably thinking, what else do I got to do? Like I literally just took over a drive and. Yeah, I mean, I think offensively, it's like, can I even do anything, right? I mean, like DK Metcalf, you see him bobble the ball a lot. Like, has he just forgotten how to catch because we just don't throw him the ball? I, yeah, I mean, this is just another year of just utter disappointment.
Well, it's another year of Steelers football. Like
Yeah,
that's just what it boils down to. This should not be surprising to anybody. I mean, I predicted it back in week 4 when we were at the card table in your basement with your dad. I said that the Ravens were going to be in contention by week 17. Looking at my watch, it's week 13 and they're already back in first place. It's like, this is Steelers football. And if you're not, if you're surprised by this, then I ask you, like, where have you been for the last 10 years? Like, where have you been?
yeah, and what rubs just the most salt in this wound is that point right there is that the Ravens are back in first. It's like, are you actually kidding me? Like, if you love the Steelers and you're on the Steelers team, all Mike Tomlin has to do at halftime or just at all is just. I remember seeing this. I think they showed it in the third quarter. It was just a playoff picture, and there we were in the 4th seed, 6-4, and there the Ravens were 5-5, and then they showed in our division they were 2-0 and we're 2-1. And I was like, okay, that's all you got to put You don't have to say a single word. Put that on the billboard for the entire week. That's all that should matter. Is that, okay, guess what? If we lose this game, we're no longer in first and the Ravens are above us. Who cares if that we're in first? I like if we were in second and the Ravens were in third. You don't want the Ravens to get second. That's what this rivalry is. Like, why is this not fuel for this team to wake up? I just it's sad that our biggest rivalry, the fact that they are going to be taking first instead of us, has just continued to keep us asleep, and that even that's not waking us up.
I mean, this is the worst AFC North year in a long time. This was the one chance that the Steelers have had in the last several years to actually win the AFC North pretty easily, I feel like. And now it's like, oh, looky, the Bills are coming. We said this before the season that this was an automatic loss, and this is probably a good time to start talking about the Bills. But you had your chances. You had your chances. You could have beaten the Packers. You could have beaten the Bengals. You could have beaten the Bears. But you beat yourselves. And now look where you are. Look what you did to yourselves. Look what the coaching staff did to the players. Look what the players are doing to themselves. The fact of the matter is, if the Steelers are 6-6 by the end of this week, I don't think anybody would be surprised.
No, absolutely not. And I like, to your point, like, this was the year for us to be mediocre and get into the playoffs and win the division. And yet we're still failing to do that. Like, I mean, this is a rare year. This is a year that probably one team in the AFC North is going to get to the playoffs. In the past 5 years, that's only happened, I think, one other time. We've always had like at least two people in the playoffs. And so, yeah, I mean, just utter disappointment. And it's like the standard wasn't even this high. It wasn't even that high this year. It was like, okay, just win the division, which isn't a hard thing to do this year. And we're failing to do that. And yeah, going in, it's like, well, there's no time to lick our wounds. We got the Bills. And yeah, granted, the Bills, I mean, they're the frauds of all frauds right now, but it's still the Bills.
That's the whole thing that I'm thinking of too. Like, a lot of people are really shallow on the Bills, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, there are a lot of people in Pittsburgh that think the Steelers are going to win this week. It's at home. It's a 425 game against a team that has beaten you more often than not in the recent past, and not only beaten you, but like absolutely shellacked you like several times in the last couple of years. Here's the thing though, and it's going back to a point that I made earlier. The Steelers are just not that good of a team. The Bills are in a different echelon than the Steelers. Sure, they might be frauds, but they're still the Bills. They still have Josh Allen. Like, Josh Allen can single-handedly win games. You think Josh Allen is going to play as well as Caleb Williams did this last week against that zone defense? Absolutely he is. Like, it's Josh Allen. And heck, if they play man defense, I can't imagine how many rushing yards Josh Allen is going to have in this week. That was my first question. It's like, okay, do you play zone or do you play man against Josh Allen? I think the question is not what you do. It's just which one is not going to be as bad, because they're both going to be terrible. I guarantee you.
Oh, I mean, I absolutely agree. And the thing I think I'm worried about most with the defense is honestly the red zone. Like, we've seen the Bills. Like, I just feel like I've seen so many highlights of the Bills scoring within the 15-yard line. And it's just like, I can't even imagine us being able to stop their red zone offense. And I also think that we won't be able to stop them from getting to the red zone. Like you said, whether it's zone or man, I think Josh Allen is going to have his way. And I think their defense is a little underrated. I think that, like, they're not the greatest defense in the world, but I think that, like, still, they're also not the worst. And so, like, our offense is not going to have a field day by any means, especially because it's our offense. So, yeah, I don't think we match up well. And I think the Bills are, trying to get back into their peak form. And I think they do well after, like, a loss or two straight losses. I think they bounce back well, and we don't. And so, yeah, I don't really have a lot of positivity going into this outlook.
So here's a strange scenario. Should the Steelers win this week, barring what happens with the Texans, the Steelers would actually be in the final playoff spot with that wild card, which is ridiculous to think about because it won't happen. But, if they actually beat the Bills, first off, you own the tiebreaker over them, which would actually be the thing that puts them in. And, like, now it's like, okay, you open a can of worms, you have an avenue into the playoffs in a different way than it actually would be to win the division. Do you think, I'll just ask you straight up, do you think the Steelers will win the division?
No. I mean, you said in our group chat that for us to win the division now, basically we'd have to beat the Ravens twice. We're not going to beat the Ravens twice. I just, it's not going to happen. I wouldn't bet on us beating the Ravens twice. And I think that's the key to the division now, because we've, failed so horribly at everything else. And yeah, I don't foresee us winning the division at all.
I completely agree. I'm in the same boat as you, but I just had to ask that just to get that out of the way. So, again, looking at the playoff picture, the Texans out of nowhere have come back into the fray. I'm still of the opinion that the Texans are a terrible team. They have maybe the best the best defense in the entire league, but their offense is absolutely abysmal. Their offensive line is terrible. And even like it doesn't matter, Davis Mills or CJ Stroud, like they've just been terrible. So I don't put any stock in the Texans. I truly do think that they're a terrible team that just happens to be 6-5. So, but that's the whole thing. It's like if you beat the Bills this week, you're right back in it. Like you have life. And then you go in and you play the Ravens. And it's like, okay, if we can find a way to beat the Ravens in Baltimore, then the hope is restored. Like now you're sitting at 8-5. You have the current tiebreaker over the Ravens. Then it's almost like you just have to survive them the rest of the year until you get to that week 18 game. So, like this game right now, like again, you're talking about that bulletin board stuff. That should be on the bulletin board this week. I don't know how you're going to beat the Bills because maybe they are frauds, but again, they have freaking Josh Allen. Like I don't have anything to break down for this Bills team. I just literally wrote down on my piece of paper Josh Allen because he could single-handedly beat us as he has for a couple of years now. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I don't know how to beat him, but you better find a way to beat him, you know? Because if you don't, then your season is completely over this week.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And if we can somehow recapture the magic that happened in the week one opener in 2021 when we somehow beat the Bills at Buffalo with Josh Allen. I still don't know how well. I do know how we did it. We had a lot of turnovers and a punt block for a touchdown. So if we could do that again, that'd be great. But I don't think that's going to happen again. And yeah, I think honestly that's our only win against Josh Allen. And we've played them a plethora of times throughout his time here. So again, I don't have much hope for this game. But to your point, like if we could somehow, edge this one out and beat Baltimore, like, yeah, we're right back in it. Hope is restored, and we just got to hang on and not lose more than one game before we see the Ravens again, which I feel like is pretty manageable because one of those games after that is Cleveland. So, yeah, I mean, again, like you made this game so important, and I feel like that's what we've done. That's what the Steelers have done year in and year out, and I think that fatigue almost sets in. Like I think almost that last year the fatigue got in there, where it's like every time we lost, it was like, oh, okay, well now this game is so much more important than it was. Then we lose again. All right, now this game, and it's like, how many times are you going to get to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, like this game is so important? And it's like you keep putting yourself in that situation. Like, yeah, you're going to get burned out. There's no reason we don't win. There's a reason we don't win playoff games. It's because by the end of the year, we fight so hard just to get in that everyone's exhausted because every single game is a playoff game. And we're in that position again. And, it's who knows? I mean, we could end up on two scenarios here. One, where we're playing the Ravens just for pride after the Bills. And I mean, even if we lose the Bills, we still technically have a chance if we can beat out the Ravens. So, that game will still be important no matter what, but you just added to the level of this game being as important as it is. And, who knows? Well, I just, I don't really know. I'm trying to, like you said, mention the hope. It's like I'm trying to find the hope. I'm like, where can I have hope here? And this week specifically, there's not much to be had.
There's not much to be had, and there's really no way to do it. This Steelers team cannot beat the Bills. They just can't. With the way that we've played, with the way that our coaching staff sets the team up, this Steelers team cannot beat the Bills. And this is a shell of what the Bills are. We know that the Bills are a juggernaut deep within their bowels, but this is not the Bills team of years past. This is not the unbeatable Bills. But now it's like this is the beatable Steelers. The absolutely beatable Steelers. And again, I just don't see a scenario where they win this one. I'll lead off with my score prediction. I'm going to say that Josh Allen just has an absolute field day. I don't care if we play man. I don't care if we play zone. He's going to drop 35 points. I don't think they're going to kick any field goals. I think they just score a ton of touchdowns. I'm going to say it's going to be 35-17. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to play. I don't think it matters. I just don't think it matters who plays. I think the scheme is dumbed down no matter who plays, whether it's Rodgers or Rudolph. Rodgers, I think, gives them a little bit more hope, but not enough to actually beat the Bills.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I have a very similar score prediction. I was going to go 35-21. I think that, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to stop their offense. And an interesting statistic, although I don't know if it really matters, it might not have any factor. The Packers have never beaten Buffalo in Buffalo. And so Aaron Rodgers, I think, has played them twice in Buffalo. And although, granted, we're not in Buffalo, but I think that goes to show, like, Aaron Rodgers may have carried that over with him. We're also struggling with Buffalo. There's nobody on this team that has a good statistic against the Bills right now. So, yeah, I'm going to go loss 35-21.
All right. Very similar. A couple of losses this week. I think, nothing changed from our preseason predictions that this one would be a loss. One final question before we go. If Aaron Rodgers played this last week against the Bears, do you think the outcome is any different?
I'm going to be, yes, I think that for a couple reasons. I think that, well, for two reasons. One, I don't think that illegal formation happens. And granted, I don't think he's going to get as many yards as Mason Rudolph did, but I think that he's going to make that play happen and at least get the first down because we've seen him move before. And two, I don't think he would have allowed the collapse at the end of our last drive to happen because it was a collapse. And, Mason Rudolph obviously was more of the like, they're going to give me a play, I'm going to do it. And like, that's totally fine. That should be his role. But with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he would have let happen what happened at the end of that drive. So I think we at least get to overtime with Aaron Rodgers.
That's interesting. I don't know if the game even plays out the same way with Aaron Rodgers, and I'm kind of the opinion that it really didn't matter who the quarterback was. But in that regard, if the game played out in a similar fashion, that they were in that same situation, I think Aaron Rodgers might give them an edge there. But I don't know even if the game does play out the same way if Aaron Rodgers ends up playing over Rudolph anyway.
Well, I agree with you. I also changed my mind because I was thinking about those two plays, and it's like, yes, if we get to that spot, I think we win, or at least go to overtime. But you go back to, I can think of those two specific drives, the 95-yard one you talked about, and then the one that we had in the second half, which was way too long, but it was still a long drive and we scored. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers could have done both of those because I don't think he's proven that he can consistently do a drive like that with the Steelers, just because he's not as, I don't know what the right word is. I don't even know if this is a word, rhythmic as Mason Rudolph is. Like Mason Rudolph wants to get in the rhythm and stay in the rhythm of the scheme. So when the scheme was working, he was in it. But I think Aaron Rodgers' tendency is to fight against the scheme. So it's like, I don't know if we have a 95-yard drive with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. That tracks a lot, and that's kind of the mindset that I had too. So, I think going back to this week, I don't know if it matters who starts. It seems like Aaron Rodgers is going to start against the Bills based on what Mike Tomlin has been saying, but he might not even start. Maybe this wrist injury is more egregious than we thought it was, and maybe we see Mason again. But again, I don't think it really matters right now. I think again, it all goes back to the coaching conversation that we had for the first 25 minutes of this episode. I think the coaching is just not setting us up in a position to win, and it doesn't matter who's on the field because we have the highest paid defense, and they're the worst defense in Steelers history. It doesn't matter who's on the field if the coaches are going to be doing the same things year in and year out, game in and game out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, if we don't make it to the playoffs like it looks like we're gonna do, I mean, I'm not upset. Like, why would I want to watch a game where that torments me? You know what I mean? Like, 17 weeks of football is enough for this kind of Steelers football. Like, if we get in and we win and go to the Super Bowl, heck yeah. Like, I'm all about it. But it's not going to happen with this team and with with these coaches.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Boardman Black and Gold is always sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 919-406-4679 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. A lot of gloom and doom on this episode of Boardman Black and Gold with Zane and David. The Bills are coming to town. I just don't see a scenario in which we win. Hey, maybe we'll be surprised. We're going to hope for a here we go Steelers win, but again, even a shell of the unbeatable Bills is going to beat the most definitely beatable Steelers, I would have to feel, and both of us are predicting as such. So with that, we will sign off for this week. David, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. Just that, who knows? I will say this. The last time we were like this, we ended up beating the 7-1 Indianapolis Colts. So who knows? Maybe they're going to shock us all and come away with a crazy win and bring all that hope back that we thought was lost once again. Though I doubt it, we can dream.
Well, the original David DeSantis talked about how we've got the Mike Tomlin special where he loses a crap game every year. There's also the reverse Mike Tomlin special where he beats a team that he probably shouldn't beat maybe once or twice a year in a game where they're coming off of a game that they probably should have won but lost because of his coaching. So maybe we get a reverse Mike Tomlin special. Who knows? But anyway, we will be back on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast to break it all down next week. Hopefully after a Here We Go Steelers win against the Buffalo Bills. This is Zane, and I'm joined with David DeSantis signing off on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. We will see you next week.